Hello, and welcome to an introduction to personal etiquette. I'm Dr. Laura Dove, Assistant Dean with the Sorrell 360 Center for Professional Life in the Sorrell College of Business here at Troy University. I thought we would start today's module with our 1887 Troy University motto: educate the mind to think, the heart to feel, and the body to act. Just like your education here at Troy, etiquette is more than something that's about preparing for one particular situation. Now, many of your modules in this etiquette mini course are going to cover topics like etiquette in the boardroom and etiquette at a formal dinner or at a professional dinner, etiquette in other countries. All of these are incredibly important topics, and there are specific rules for certain contexts. Today's section, though, on personal etiquette is really more about a way of life. It's becoming a person of character in everything that you do all of the time. It's really just internalizing manners and etiquette, concern for others, being considerate. It's internalizing all of those things as a part of just who you are on an everyday basis. And that's something that I think is really special about Troy. We seek to instill that in all of our students. It's not just about preparing students in different degree programs for a particular career. It really is about kind of becoming a whole person and using your time while you're in college or whatever situation that you're in and taking this course to really better yourself as a whole. So in our next few slides, we're going to go over a few specific topics that fit within these ideas of educating the mind to think, the heart to feel, and the body to act. So when it comes to mind, when we think of educating the mind, of course, we may jump immediately to thinking about whatever our degree program is, the things that we're learning in our classes, and critical thinking, and all those are, of course, extremely important. I'd also like to invite you to think about educating the mind in terms of mindfulness. When we think about learning to think, I want you to think about doing that in sort of a strategic way. Think productively. Or when we get stressed out, our minds tend to go into overdrive, right? Sometimes we're very critical of ourselves. And so I think we need to be aware of that self-talk, and we need to be able to control our thought process before we get derailed, before we end up sort of stressed out and going down a path that we don't really want to be down and that really isn't productive. So what is this concept of mindfulness, and where does this come into play? Why is it important? Well, mindfulness, right, which really is just the idea of presence, is absolutely essential when it comes to being a person with charisma, somebody who is engaging to other people, someone who can build relationships with other people. You've had some sections and some discussion on networking. People who tend to be very effective at networking are people who are highly charismatic. The same can be said for great leaders, right? Great leadership, probably 99% of the time, it goes hand in hand with people who are highly charismatic. They can motivate people. They understand what other people are about, what other people are coming from, and they can build those connections. Now, presence, right, or mindfulness, being aware of the current moment, is absolutely essential to being a leader, to having that charisma. So really having presence just means being present. It means that you're not concerning yourself with worries about things that happened this morning or things that yesterday. You're not dwelling on the past. At the same time, you're not anxious. You're not worrying about what could happen in the future, or what if things go wrong, or what if nobody at this party that I'm going to later likes me, or what if my first day on the job is too difficult. We're talking about pausing and staying focused on the present moment, being aware of your surroundings. When you're talking to someone and their mind is a million miles away, you know it. You're not building that connection. When someone in a conversation with you is focused on you, is truly listening to you, is truly hearing the things that you have to say, it makes a difference. And so we want to extend that same courtesy to other people, and that really requires being aware of the current present moment. So there's a couple different ways that you can actually practice being present. It's something that now, with so many distractions, with our cell phones all the time, it's something that's actually quite difficult to do. So I want you to think of this as something that you practice and try to make time for this every day. The good news is, if you take 1 or 2 minutes a day, it will dramatically, markedly improve your life, I promise you. Now, ideally, you would, start with a couple of minutes and then try to work your way up to 5 or even 10 minutes of mindfulness a day. But even 2 minutes a day, I promise, will make a huge difference, and you're going to notice it. So as your first exercise, what you can do is, I like to set a timer on my cell phone for 1 minute or 2 minutes. And when I hit that timer, I close my eyes. I make sure I'm somewhere in a comfortable position and somewhere that I'm not going to have a bunch of distractions around. I close my eyes, and for that 1 to 2 minutes, I try to focus entirely just on my breath. So breathing in and out. I breathe normally. Some of these, I've seen some sources that will give you mindfulness practices where you're counting your breaths or you're doing things like that. I like to just breathe very naturally and normally, and just focus on that breath in and out. Now, when you do this, even just for that 2 minutes, your mind is going to wander. It's going to go off in 1,000 directions. You're going to be thinking about, gee, I wonder what I'll have for dinner later tonight. I'm feeling really hungry. Or, hey, that thing that somebody said to me this morning, I don't know what he meant by that. I hope he's not mad at me. When you notice your mind start to wander like that, what you should do is just observe it, notice attention back to the breath. You may feel, right, at some point you may start to feel like, how is this so hard and why can't I even do this right? If you're starting to have those criticisms because your mind keeps wandering, that's okay too. Observe it, notice it, and just try to bring your focus back to the breath. Over time, you'll find you'll be able to build up, more of an ability to really, keep that focus, kind of keep your mind clear. If it gets frustrating at first, just keep in mind that every time you notice and bring your attention back, you're just improving. You are getting better and better, the more that you're noticing that. And then try to go from that 1 or 2 minutes, up to 5 or even 10 minutes a day. The second thing that you can do, I call it 3 things. I also set a timer for this one on my phone for, 2 minutes or even 1 minute if you wanted to start with 1. And then close your eyes and focus on your surroundings and try to identify 3 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can smell, and 3 things that you can feel. So this may be things as simple as, you can feel the chair underneath you, or you can feel your shoes on your feet. But again, right, this is a very, very simple, easy exercise. It only takes 2 minutes, but what it does is it kind of gives you practice on focusing on the current moment, focusing on the present moment, and just being aware of your surroundings. And the more that you can kind of train yourself to really live in the present, as opposed to that dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, it's going to make, it will decrease your stress level for sure, and it will make you kind of just more confident and more able to deal with the current situation as you're finding it. That really is sort of a key to productivity, and like we said as well, it will make a difference in your interactions with people as well, because they'll know that you're there, that your focus is on them, that you're not thinking about who across the room might be somebody who's more important to talk to, and it really makes sure that you make people feel valued, and it's just a great way to build connection. Next, we have educating the heart to feel. For this topic, I wanted to touch on emotional intelligence. This is another just essential skill when it comes to any form of leadership, when it comes to building relationships, really when it comes to just having a sort of a meaningful life, right, and building connections with other people. Emotional intelligence and empathy. Why should we care about these topics? Well, just as one, quick example, in a study of over 2,600 hiring managers, 71% said that they would value high EQ, right, or emotional quotient, over high IQ, right, or intelligence quotient. So we think of people with high IQ, right? They're, you know, super smart. These are the people who are going to be successful. Actually, if you look at the research out there, emotional intelligence is more connected, right? It is more predictive of success in your career. It's more predictive of college success. It's more predictive of, you know, overall happiness and life satisfaction than almost any other factor that they have studied. They've compared emotional intelligence to IQ, to SAT scores, ACT scores, you know, parental wealth. I mean, every type of demographic that you can think of has been compared to emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence has consistently, there's a ton of research out there in a lot of different disciplines that's found that it is by far more important than any of those other factors. So trying to cultivate your emotional intelligence and improve this as a skill is something that will really benefit you. In terms of like looking at emotional intelligence in the workplace and the difference that it makes, high IQ means things like, you know, staying calm under pressure, being a great listener, leading by example, making thoughtful business decisions, taking criticism well, and effectively resolving conflict. And so obviously, you know, no matter what workplace that you end up in, no matter what situation you're in, all of those things are really important skills. So I wanted to just do a very quick overview of 5 key components of emotional intelligence. These come from Daniel Goleman, who is one of the top researchers in this field. In fact, I believe he coined the term emotional intelligence. He really is sort of the pioneer in the field of the study of emotional intelligence. So some things that you want to be aware of when you're thinking in terms of how to improve this. One is self-awareness. So basically, it's really important to be able to recognize and identify your own emotional states. And the more specific you can be, the better. Okay, so instead of I feel bad today, right, I feel angry, right? Even going a little bit more specific than that, instead of I feel angry, think about I feel frustrated or I feel betrayed, right? The research basically on this issue has shown that the more specific you can feel and identify what emotion it is that you're experiencing and what the cause of that is, it actually makes the experience of that emotion easier to bear. What a lot of us tend to do when we're feeling sort of a negative emotion is we tend to want to resist it, and we think, just make this go away. Whatever I can do, I'm just going to make it go away. And that resistance will actually make the experience of the emotion worse, and it'll make it last longer. What you want to do is identify what you're feeling and just try to accept that. Just try to feel it. Again, it kind of that goes back to being present too, right? Like we talked about in the earlier slides. You want to just sort of accept that you're feeling this way. Don't judge it, and kind of, you know, give yourself permission to feel those negative emotions as well as those positive emotions. And that way you're better able to choose how you're actually going to react to those emotions. That brings us into our second component, which is self-regulation. You want to, you know, when you have that self-awareness, when you can kind of pause and identify exactly what you're feeling, it gives you time to determine how you are going to respond. You're not just knee-jerk reacting when something negative happens to you. You're pausing, and then you can determine what is an appropriate and productive response. Internal motivation is another key component of emotional intelligence. It is important to try, you know, to pursue goals and to make decisions in your life based on things that make you personally satisfied and based on the things that really fit kind of your values. You're going to find less success, and you're certainly going to find less happiness if you're making decisions based on, you know, what's going to pay me the most and what's going to be the fanciest thing to put on my resume. You know, try to align your decisions based on, you know, your core values. Fourth is empathy. We recently held an event and brought in speakers from all kinds of different industries. Leaders, some of the very top leaders in our area have been involved in a couple of events that we've held recently. And one theme or advice that was given to students over and over again from people of all different walks of life was the importance of empathy. You know, really being able Of course, your self-awareness gives you an understanding of what you are feeling and why. Empathy is the ability to perceive in other people, right? What is this person feeling and why might they be feeling like that? So the ability to kind of put yourself in the position that somebody else is in and understand, truly understand and empathize with what they are experiencing will help you relate to that person, and it'll help, if there's any kind of a dispute, it'll help you be able to work together with someone to find a productive solution, as opposed to just continually being at odds. Last is this just idea of people skills. People with high emotional intelligence are the people who tend to have really great people skills. And we know there is almost nothing, that could be more important than people skills in terms of, thinking about, what will help you be successful, and what will help you, really have a satisfying, I think, and a fulfilling life, right, is building relationships with other people. Trust is just so crucial. That was another thing that's emerged in some of our events that we've held in the College of Business lately. Over and over and over again, we heard about how you can't accomplish anything, right? You can't do anything that you might set out to do if you're not able to build trusting relationships with other people. It's really just the foundation of success in a lot of ways. Okay, finally, in terms of looking at our kind of original Troy motto, is educating the body to act. When I think about this, I think about kind of all the different ways that you can present yourself professionally. People, like it or not, good or bad, people are going to start forming first impressions of you within seconds of seeing you. So before you even have the opportunity to say hello, the way that you're presenting yourself and just the way that you're physically occupying space in the world is going to have an impact on how other people perceive you. And that can be difficult to change later on down the line. So you always want to kind of be aware of these things. This is not a complete list. These are just kind of a few highlights just to touch on very briefly in the short time we have for this video. But be aware of your body language and your posture. You want to project confidence, right? You want to keep your head up, right? Your shoulders should be back. You should be standing up straight. If you're sitting, you should be sitting up straight. Just doing those things is not just going to affect how other people view you, it's going to affect how you feel. And you will feel more confident if you are projecting confidence in that kind of physical space. Smiling. This is something that I think for a lot of people, it's difficult to do. Some people tend to be kind of more natural smilers than others. I will freely admit I tend to be one of those people who I just forget to smile. And my neutral face is not very smiley. So I have to remind myself of this a lot, but it does make a difference to, greet people with a smile when you're introducing yourself. Just portraying that it's a friendly, open gesture. It's just something that really can help especially when you're meeting new people. A proper handshake is absolutely essential in introductions. Practice, with other people, that you trust, but you want to look for, you want a firm handshake, but you're not going to do like an absolute death grip on someone's hand, right? The webs of your hand, the web between your finger and your thumb should make contact with the web of the other person's finger and thumb. You want to keep a straight hand. None of the I'm the queen, kiss my hand kind of a gesture, right? You want to keep your hands straight. Just a little bit of an up and down movement. You don't, pump somebody's hand up and down like crazy or anything like that. But some of these touches, a firm, strong handshake in the proper way is a great first impression to make. Introductions, if you are seated, whether it's at a dinner or behind a desk, if you are seated at the time when you are being introduced to someone or someone comes up to introduce themselves to you, you should stand to shake hands and make those introductions. And then finally, appropriate attire for the occasion. This is something that could be its own, 2-hour long presentation, but definitely make sure that you are aware of the dress code for any event that you are attending. If you receive an invitation and the dress code is not printed on there, feel free. You can always call the host, whoever is printed on the invitation, wherever you're supposed to RSVP. You can call that person and ask what's expected in terms of the attire. Obviously, interview situations. First day on the job, right? Those early situations are extremely important. The bottom line is with attire, if you are ever in any doubt, it is much better to go more on the formal side. If you have to err on the side of being overdressed, especially when it's the workplace that's involved. Another thing too that I would caution you just as a final point on attire is make sure that if you are researching, business professional or business casual attire, some of these different terms, if you're doing that research online, look for university, reputable university career websites, or college specific websites. Talk to your professors, talk to people in the industry that about appropriate attire, but just be very careful, because I have found that if you put, business casual or business professional or what should I wear to an interview, if you put some of those search terms into Google Images or Pinterest or some of the other resources out there, you get a wide variety of things that are not always in any way what I would recommend or what most professionals would recommend in terms of meeting those dress codes. It is true that overall there's been sort of a move toward less formal workwear, but if you are preparing for an interview, if you are in a new job or a new internship, you do not want to rely on, there may be things that it's acceptable for someone to wear who's been employed in an industry for 10 years. It may be that, once you get a job and you're on the job and you've been there for, several months or a year and the culture, maybe at that point, you can begin to dress down just depending on your particular workplace. But for interviews, for first days, for new meetings, for career fairs, anything along those lines, you want to be in solid business professional, you go formal. Do not, that's not the, you want to explore all the current trends and things like that. So be careful when you're doing your own research. If you have any doubts, there are a lot of people on this campus who can help. Our career services office is fantastic. And again, you can talk to your faculty, but just, make sure that you are prepared in terms of that attire, because all of that is a part of making that first impression. All right, just to conclude, I thought sort of an appropriate way to summarize personal etiquette in general, and really to kind of finish up, we've gone with our original motto as our theme. And so I think the perfect way to conclude is with the Trojan way. So to live and perform the Trojan way, we are expected to be respectful, speak appropriately, dress properly for the occasion, behave as a responsible, kind person, and adhere to applicable laws and policies. All of these things really are just about, making sure that you're doing your research, that you know what's expected of you, and that you are, being considerate of other people and demonstrating that you're aware of what's expected and that you're kind of working within that. All of that is just a question of, it's a question of respect. It's a question of, values in your own personal character. But really, I think, if you adhere to the Trojan way, if you follow this, everything else, really in this entire mini course, I think all of these other things come to you and they'll come naturally. Another key is, when you're clearly being respectful of other people, when you've made an effort, when you are being polite, when you are showing empathy and you're building connection, if you happen to make a mistake, and we all do, if you happen to make a mistake on, which fork do I pick up, and, I passed the salt and I forgot to pass the pepper with it. You can, everybody's going to make mistakes, but if you're following the Trojan way, if you're just adhering to these key principles, it's going to be, it's not something, none of those things are going to be the end of the world when people know that, you are somebody who's respectful and that you're making that effort. So that really, really does go a long way. So thank you very much for your time and for participating in this etiquette course and in our section on personal etiquette. And enjoy the rest of the course. Thank you.